Why are we confused? And is clarity even possible, if there is such a thing? We are the most connected we've ever been in human history. Endless knowledge is just a tap away. Yet somehow, clarity feels more elusive than ever. Confusion has become a new normal. In a world overflowing with information, opinions, assumptions, conclusions, belief systems, algorithms, and noise. Whether it's about who we are, what we know or don't know, or even what's true, we're caught in a fog that seems to thicken the more we try to escape it. According to evolutionary science, confusion is a signal. When reality does not match our expectations, our brain pauses. In early humans, confusion could mean life or death. Misreading a pattern, thinking a shadow was safe when it wasn't, was costly. Confusion made us stop, analyze, and survive. The state of confusion compelled us to learn. It drove us to seek clarity, to resolve contradictions, and to update our thinking patterns. Evolution's idea of making us confused was to compel us to act more intelligently. If confusion helped us survive, then perhaps its deeper purpose is to help us evolve, not just as a species, but as individuals. Confusion is not the enemy of clarity, as many of us may believe. It is its prerequisite. It arises not to diminish us, but to prepare us for an opportunity to observe the confusion. But in the modern world, confusion often feels less like a passage and more like a trap. And it's not hard to see why. We were raised in a world where clarity was defined for us by systems that mistook productivity for purpose and survival for meaning. When a child is molded not for creative self-expression, but for economic utility, confusion is inevitable, not because something is wrong with the child, but because something is off with the direction. We are taught to ignore the self in order to meet the demands of an economic machine we never chose to serve. In doing so, we lose touch with the very source of our inner clarity, our authenticity, and our innate curiosity. And so naturally we search outside ourselves, grasping at advice, mimicking lives that are not ours, hoping someone else's map will fit our unwalked path. But life is not a formula, and the more we abandon our own inner compass, the more confused we become. Even when we do turn inward, we often find too many possibilities, infinite paths, so many versions of who we could be, what we could create, and where we could go. And this too brings confusion. But this kind of confusion is sacred. It is the evidence of freedom. It is the sign that we are no longer imprisoned by one narrative, but are beginning to awaken to choice. Confusion need not be a flaw in the process of self-development. It can be an opportunity for us to look into it, to observe it, to become conscious of it. We rely heavily on our physical senses, which are intimately connected to our brains. In the course of evolution, the senses came first: touch, sound, sight, and the brain evolved in response, adapting to interpret and react to this sensory information. But if the brain evolved in service to the senses, doesn't this suggest that our perception of life is fundamentally shaped by primitive mechanisms, geared more toward survival than a true holistic understanding of life itself? The neocortex, the most recent and complex part of the brain, is where abstract thought, imagination, and self-awareness reside. It's here where clarity may emerge, detached from the urgency of the moment, capable of seeing with fresh eyes. And yet, it is often subdued by the faster, older systems beneath it, reflexive, emotional, and driven by instinct. Perhaps this is why confusion feels so familiar to us, why it may, in fact, be our default state. The older parts of our brain don't seek truth, they seek survival and safety. They react, they assume, and they filter the world through 5 physical senses, old fears, and inherited patterns. Clarity, by contrast, is not automatic. It must be cultivated. It requires effort, attention, and a willingness to question what the senses insist is real. In this light, to see clearly is not merely to process reality, it is to transcend the architecture of our evolution. The mind has become far more complex, and contradictions seem to exist within it, as it is capable of thinking more and more things both for and against. But can thoughts exist without duality? Aren't thoughts always both for and against something, with no middle ground? Perhaps we choose our thoughts or narratives according to our needs, either to survive or to thrive. Maybe the mind itself is a form of confusion. Perhaps the spectrum of confusion and clarity mirrors the spectrum of our identification with and attachment to our mind and mental processes. If a mind that's confused seeks clarity, what can it really think? Anything it thinks will be shaped by its confusion, and so it can never find true clarity, only a false version of it. The mind may chase validation and build false confidence, living a life based on lies and dishonesty. But that mind will remain mediocre all its life. Can ceaseless observation of the mind without any prejudice and purpose bring detachment from the mind itself over time and dawn ultimate clarity? Studying science can promote clarity in our understanding of the objective world. Constant self-awareness promotes clarity in our experience of the subjective world. One can live in ultimate clarity by balancing and enhancing the two directions. We should understand that science can only enhance our lifestyle, not life itself. It is through self-awareness one enhances the quality of life in its truest sense. We often confuse life with lifestyle, and in doing so, we create a deeper kind of existential confusion. Lifestyle is not life. Life is not a lifestyle. Clarity begins when you stop avoiding confusion and start observing it through consistent self-awareness. By continually observing your mind, which is the source of all confusion, you create a distance between your awareness and your thoughts. This distance gives you a clearer view of the mind, its ideas, patterns, games, and limitations. Over time, this awareness gives rise to clarity and makes you less susceptible to confusion. There was a path that led away from the road, not paved, not marked, just a narrow trail through quiet woods. It didn't promise anything. It didn't try to impress. But it felt like it had always been there, waiting. He walked with his mind full. Thoughts circled like restless birds, unfinished plans, words left unsaid, ideas of who he should be. The world he had come from was loud. People were chasing meaning, success, and even peace, but they chased it like a prize, always just out of reach. The path bent through tall trees. They didn't move or speak, yet somehow they said more than most words could. He noticed how still they were, not waiting, not hoping, just there, alive without needing to be anything more. He kept walking until the trees opened up into a small clearing. No sign, no story, just space. The kind that didn't ask for anything in return. It wasn't beautiful in a dramatic way. It was quite beautiful, undisturbed. At first he felt out of place, like he had brought noise into silence. His thoughts tried to explain it, compare it, and define it, but slowly they faded. The place didn't demand silence. It created it. He sat on a flat rock and said nothing, not because he was trying to be quiet, but because there was nothing to say. He felt the sun on his face, not warm, not cold, just real. There was no sudden insight, no voice from above, just the sense that everything was already whole. That life, in its most silent form, didn't need fixing. That maybe clarity wasn't something to achieve, but something that appears when we stop running. On the way back, he saw a child sitting by the path, whittling a stick, humming to himself. The boy didn't look up. He wasn't performing. He was just being. That image stayed with him. Not the trees, not the sun, but the boy's quiet presence. There was no effort in it, no message, just life as it is. He realized that confusion often wears the mask of seeking or trying to become. But clarity doesn't try. It arrives when we no longer need to become anything at all.